Well, you already know In, but only part of what In does or has been doing. Do you know who else? Like Cassio, who knows Samuel, who knows Felipe? Fact is, they're very well known in Brazil, and there are a bunch of reasons. I'm going to find those out for you guys. You always have entrepreneurs pitch in very short periods of time. So can I give you like 5 seconds to pitch about what you do? Yeah, you can start.
Yeah. Well, 5 seconds is much more than we were given to the pitch this morning. So it's good to be here in the stage without judging anyone. Yeah, right. My name is In. I am a Brazilian entrepreneur, as you can see from my face. I was born in Brazil from Chinese families, entrepreneur. Currently, I'm doing B2B e-commerce startup in the pet segment. Previously, I was a co-founder of a B2C e-commerce called baby.com.br, and I've been in the internet technology market since the first bubble. It wasn't my fault, but I was there since the beginning, and working in tech companies, investing as an angel investor too. Okay, thank you.
All right, my name is Samuel. I am the CEO of Onda Local, which is an investment from Bold Ventures, as you can see on the screen. So Nick, the partner from Bold Ventures, can't be here with us, unfortunately. So I'm filling in for him. I'm German. I'm living in Brazil since 4 years. And I founded 2 companies already in the online marketing space. And I'm happy to share some experience with you tonight, this afternoon.
Hi. My name is Cassio Spina. I've been a tech entrepreneur for 25 years, and after selling my last company in 2010, I started doing angel investing in Brazil. And also I founded Anjos do Brasil, which is a non-profit organization for creating angel networks.
Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Felipe Matos. I'm the CEO of Startup Brazil program. Before joining the government, the dark side of force, I've been a tech entrepreneur myself for 16 years. I've founded several companies, and I've also worked as a venture capitalist and as an accelerator.
If you would just have one word to describe how you are feeling right now about Brazil, the word would be?
Enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic. That's a great word.
Excited.
Excited?
Yeah, excited as well.
Yeah, opportunities.
Okay. Guys, you mentioned you were like an entrepreneur for many years now. Was it very different to become an entrepreneur back then than it is now? Did anything change?
Oh, anything, I think almost everything changed, okay? Yeah, when I started was much time before the internet era, okay? And not only because of technology was not so accessible, but also creating the business in Brazil was very tough, okay? Of course, still there are many challenges for doing that in Brazil, but we see a much more friendly ecosystem now for doing business. We still have to do a lot. That's one of the purposes of Anjos Brazil, is to really help promoting entrepreneurship, okay, innovative entrepreneurship in Brazil. We believe that can add real value for the whole society, as well for the entrepreneurs, the investors, for the whole members of this ecosystem. And we see a big change in the last 5 years, even more from the entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurs' profiles. Okay, there's a study called GEM. It's Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which measures the entrepreneurship of each country. And Brazil has one of the highest levels of entrepreneurship in all of the world. But the most important than that, we have today the kind of what they call opportunistic entrepreneurs, which are entrepreneurs that are looking to create great business. And that's the profile we like to work with and invest on them and helping them grow, because they can do a difference in terms of growing fast their business.
Felipe also was an early on this, on tech. Do you think it was cool to be like a geek or a nerd or a tech guy or an entrepreneur back then? And do you think now it's well seen?
Well, it definitely has changed a lot. Back then, entrepreneurs were crazy people. Well, now they're crazy heroes. I mean, they're still crazy, but they're well seen by Brazilians, I would say. I mean, just to tell you, to give the audience an idea of how how it has changed over time. Now we have a soap opera on Brazilian TV that's super popular, and one of the stars of the soap opera is a tech entrepreneur. And we just happen to see pitches and investments going on the TV. So it's really changing the culture of entrepreneurship in Brazil right now. And if you look at many metrics, like the number of accelerators, we had 3 years ago. We have over 40 now. Probably you can tell us about the angel investors, but this number has increased a lot, Cassio, right?
Yeah. Just to have an idea, Anjos Brazil has just 2.5 years, okay, and today we have more than 220 members all over Brazil. Okay, we have 12 angel groups already established. Okay, of course, some of them are quite new, but some of them are quite experienced already. They have many investments done. So that's what you see. It's a moment in Brazil. I always say to everybody that's outside from Brazil, because many of people saw, I think, a couple of years ago, the Economist magazine showing the Christ jumping up, and now they jump down the Christ. But actually, what's happening in Brazil, it's much different what people usually see from outside. Okay, of course, we have some problems, have some difficulties. The whole economy is not growing so much, but specifically when we're talking about innovation, about new entrepreneurship, this is really still growing, and we believe that's very sustainable over the long term.
Just repeat the number of angel investors in the network.
Just in Anjos do Brazil, we have more than 220 members now.
Wow, but you estimate there are more?
Of course, no. Yes, Brazil has a long history of investing, but most of the investment done before was what we call passive investors, were usually entrepreneurs or even executives, which were searched by the entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs, through their network, presented their projects, their business, and this guy does the investment, help them. Okay, so he did effectively done angel investing, but just because he was approached by the entrepreneur. So he used to do only 1 or 2 investments over his lifetime. And what's changing now is that people are starting looking for, okay, either I've done 1 or 2 and I want to do more, or even I didn't do anything, but I see there's an opportunity, so I want to look for more. Okay, so that's the biggest change. So we have a study that estimates to have over 6,000 investors that have already done investments in Brazil. But I believe the potential for that is to more than double in the next 5 years. So we see that's a scenario of a big increase in the next years.
More than double because more people are becoming richer, so to say, more successful?
Yes, one of the reasons is that. On the investor side, there is more people that have today. We say that angel investor is not the multimillionaire investor. Usually it's a high middle class investor, okay, that has some, of course, some assets, but also have much experience, which is the most important thing they approach for the entrepreneurs. And this base is growing, but also, it's very important, the entrepreneur's profile is changing a lot. Okay, I tell everybody, when I studied engineering, when I was graduated, almost all my colleagues went to work either to financial sector or to government, etc. None would be entrepreneur. I think I was the only guy who was at the time. And today we talk with students that are graduating, and I'd say at least a third of them want to be entrepreneur. So that's a big change that we have seen these years.
Right. I'm very curious, Samuel, maybe I never asked you this question. Did you move to Brazil just because of like Bold Ventures and Nick, or what did you know about Brazil previously, and when you arrived, did you learn it was that or it was different? What made you go to Brazil?
Yeah, exactly. Let me a little bit expand on Brazil and why I ended up there. I think early on I decided to take a challenge in an emerging economy, which offers a lot more growth potential and expansion for new business ideas than, for example, in Germany, where the market is already saturated, very competitive. There's a lot of ideas that are put to work. So basically, Brazil offered a blue oceans basically for new ideas to bring actually business models from established markets to Brazil. And Brazil itself presented itself as the most interesting market in Latin America, with 185 million inhabitants. Over the next 10 years, 30 million people will grow out of poverty into the consumer layer of the society. So there's people who start for the first time in their life, traveling, buying consumer goods, even white label goods are sold in a massive way in Brazil. And the penetration of internet and mobile smartphones is really driving and opening up new markets for business models that are proven and established in other markets. And in that sense, I think Rocket Internet and other players are really leveraging on that. They take business models like the Zalando model to Brazil, which is called Affici, and now is the biggest online retailer or fashion retailer in Brazil. Groupon was created a big wave that ran through the country, creating opening doors for exactly that development that you guys were commenting on. People got aware of the opportunities in creating new business and bringing new businesses. So in that wave, a lot of people followed, and I was one of them, seeing that this is a great opportunity.
This makes me ask about proven models, and some people call them copycats sometimes. Do you have an opinion about, do Brazilians do copycats? Are they more innovative than you can see from the outside? Who
like
gets
my,
that?
my
Who
view,
gets it?
as an outside view quickly, I think copycats are good, but they have to execute it well and adopt it to local needs. So basically we call it in Brazil tropicalizing your business. It's not just plug and play. There's a lot of things that has to be changed in order to make it work in Brazil, because it has very particularities that you should not overlook.
Just to complement, I think copycats is a good way to learn how to create a business that can be successful, okay? And I don't see any problem with that as far as it's well executed and is adapted to Brazilian. But of course, we see both good opportunities on that, because Brazil has an emerging class, a middle class that of more than 20 million people that just emerged from the last years. So there's big opportunities for you creating new business for attending all these new consumers. Of course, we also like to see innovative business that can create differentiate things that can even go global. Okay.
Yeah. Well, if I may add to that, and I see lots of Brazilians complaining, when are we going to have a Brazilian Facebook or an disruptive, innovative business in Brazil? And probably we have some entrepreneurs and investors from other emerging markets that might ask the same question. And I think that the copycat phase, I would say it's a phase of an ecosystem, an entrepreneurial ecosystem that is growing. And it's a phase that you have to pass through in order to improve your base of both entrepreneurs, money. So if you look at the history of some ecosystems, it's a way to start with a lower risk. You have a business model that's already being proven elsewhere. It doesn't mean it will work locally. You have to localize, as you said, and it demands a lot of execution. But it's easier for an investor to believe in a model like this, and then hopefully it will produce success cases and new investors that will create a new cycle of more innovative business later on.
Yeah, I think copycats also helps to get more people, more new talents that wouldn't go into risky business because they're too innovative. So not only for entrepreneurs, but also people that will execute the employees. So usually they would look only for bigger companies, but since you're a copycat and you're a proven model as well, they say, okay, in this case I could jump, and this way you are creating a base of people that are getting used to startups, and they will help to create the following waves of new startups too.
I was about to ask you, because you are a mentor at a number of Startup Weekend events and other occasions. I think you are connected to universities too, as well as a mentor, or what? Yeah, do you think entrepreneurs are coming prepared into Startup Weekends or competitions? Do we learn to become an entrepreneur in Brazil, or just doing a proven model?
I think because of easier access to content online, so they're coming with all those business canvas, all this lean startup contents and theories, methodologies. But still, in the end, you have a startup weekend model, which one of those that I like most, because you're putting something, you're creating a prototype over the weekend, so you're really doing something, not just showing a PowerPoint or a business plans elsewhere. So, but when we take the schools, I think there's still our curriculum still lacks a lot of involvement with classes that are related to entrepreneurship. But still, comparing to my time, like I was graduated 15 years ago, it's much better. And some of the schools, like we are more involved with, like all of us, FGV, SPM, they have classes and they have their own entrepreneurship center. And the best thing is that the students, they're doing that. It's not only coming from professors, from teachers, or from the school themselves. The students, they are taking the lead of this movement. So this is, I think, the biggest difference in terms of academia.
And Felipe, so the government picked you to sort of moderate and keep track between academic grants, accelerators, it's a network of some of them, and entrepreneurs, even from outside of Brazil, to be accelerated by this Startup Brazil. Did you get a chance to define how the project would be?
Well, thanks for the question and for letting me explain what Startup Brazil is. And I was just making a joke that I joined the dark side of force. Governments are not very entrepreneurial friendly anywhere in the world, and it's quite challenging being in a position of an entrepreneur, move inside and join the government to create a program more suitable for their needs. What you do at Startup Brazil is the government finances, invests directly into startup companies, but we did it in partnership with the private sector. So the program selected 15 accelerators, private accelerators from all over the country. And we do selection rounds twice a year. So we've had almost 2,000 startups from both Brazil and from all over the world, actually, applying, and we select 100 per year. Each startup would get grants from the government, around $100,000 approximately, plus an investment on top of that from the accelerator. And they will have access to office space, mentorship in a program from that accelerator, and visa if it's a foreigner to come to the country. And by the way, we're just going to start our third call for proposals, and all the entrepreneurs here are invited to get to know the program and to apply if you're interested in the Brazilian market.
Okay, say it complete then. Apply where? There's a website.
There's a website, www.startupbrazil, Brazil with an S, .org.br.
Startup Brazil with an S, .org.br.
Yes.
Okay. But so, did you get a chance to define that the program would work like that? I mean, how open are them?
Well, pretty open, I would say. Governments don't have much openness, and sometimes it's not because of their will, but regulations and lots of legal restrictions that are pretty hard to change. So you always have to work with those restrictions to come up with something that would work. But considering that, the government is being pretty open, flexible, and finding ways that would be better for the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, some people say what you expect from the government is to not disturb or not stay on the way. So, and they even put something together and run by an entrepreneur. Also,
just make a joke. Felipe is Luke Skywalker. He's changing Darth Vader to the good side.
Trying to.
Do you remember if you have Italians or South Africans or Russians on Startup Brazil?
We've had some applications from both Italy, South Africa, yes. I don't think we have any company that was selected from those countries, but would love to. I mean.
just out of curiosity. But this is only one part of the bureaucratic world, maybe, that gets foreigners unknowing of what to expect when they come to Brazil. Other things are changing, right, or being proposed for change in Brazil, like laws for investors, including. Can you walk us?
Yeah. I think it's a good question, because when we start doing angel investing, Brazil has no regulation, no policy for helping angel investors. As you can find in the United States, in many countries here in Europe, you don't have any kind of tax benefits or even legal protection, okay, for doing investments. But what we find out that was very interesting, that after we starting presenting the importance of angel investing and the importance of innovative entrepreneurship, we are starting to be approached by many government officials, not including only government, but from the Congress also. And also, we have already a new law that's being submitted in the Congress for creating a tax incentive for angel investors. And this has surprised me very much, because, as I told you, we have a little bit more than 2 years. And usually in Brazil, for creating a new law, or for at least applying that, it takes many, many years for doing that. So we see the environment and the government itself, through Startup Brazil and through other actions, they are really willing to help creating this, because they see one of the lacks in Brazil is really have innovative business, and for doing that, they know that they need investors. So we see, for example, there's an agency in Brazil called Apex that's going outside to Brazil, trying to present, helping investors to come into Brazil, so making a very friendly as possible, of course. You know that there's some limitations, but to help investors that want to come and invest, because they see they don't add value not only by their money itself, but by their experience. Now, Startup Brazil, I think Felipe can tell you about, but what I understand is that they want international entrepreneurs because they will be able to bring their experience, their view from their countries, okay? So Brazil is also wants investors for also taking to Brazil also their experience, so they can help improve our ecosystem.
So they are also doing these laws for, if you're a small company, it will become easier for you. If you're a tech company, it will become easier for you. They had this Marco Civil, the internet, regulatory, a polemic maybe. It took some years, right? But still, is it easy to start a company, or is it easy to shut down a company if you need, and to bring money from abroad? You're raising.
Yeah, let me extend a little bit on that. Like, from my point of view, I'm coming from European background, going to Brazil. Brazil has many challenges still in terms of administration, in terms of the easiness of doing business. But this is good in a certain way. So basically, the lack of well-developed infrastructure is not only a limitation, it's also an opportunity. For example, for Uber business models that come to Brazil. In Brazil, there's no trains, there's no good public transportation, so there's business models around logistics being created that are growing fast and adding more value in Brazil than anywhere else. Education, another sector where Brazil still needs to develop, and the public has not been able to deliver on the needs of the country. So basically, distant learning platforms, self-tutoring platforms, language schools, and online e-learning, business models are striving in Brazil, because they actually fill the gap that was created through a certain inefficiency, so which is actually good for entrepreneurs to come in and develop innovative and value-generative business models.
Mm-hmm. My take on that is that these conditions are for almost everyone, let's say. And if the company or the entrepreneur can handle that, it will certainly become a barrier for new competitors. So we always try to see on the good side of this, and it really becomes like it's not easy for a new company to come, raise money, and create a company. And if you can establish that, you will be way ahead of anyone that's just dreaming about a new project and say, okay, let's do an MVP and create the company overnight. It's a different market condition. I think if we see it that way, it will add up to your business strategies.
Just to give an example of that, I have one of the companies I have invested on. We are now in the third round of capital raising. And since the product developed is a global product, it's already have a big market in US, we decided to go to US to get this new round, not just for the money itself, but mostly because there's the main market for them. So we want to bridge that. And one thing that was very impressive for us is that almost all the investors that looked at the company, at the first moment, they could not believe what they have done with so few money, okay? So they were really impressed, saying, it's impossible that we have done that with so few investment up to date, okay? We have released less than $1 million, okay? And have a user base of over 5 million users on their product. So none of the investors said, no, it's impossible that. So we have to demonstrate proof. And after they saw that, it's incredible. That's something that we learned. I say everybody tells about lean startup. I say Brazil always have been lean because we didn't have money to do. So we have to do much with very small resources, okay? And that's the kind of the profile of the entrepreneur we really like to invest on, because this is the big change to create different business.
Well, still we are seeing like investors coming from other countries, entrepreneurs. We are becoming entrepreneurs in different areas of Brazil, not only São Paulo and Rio, but out of like any neighborhood, including inside favelas, probably. But still, even high-profile executives leaving their jobs to start companies. Do you think they have a mindset about success versus failure? How's that in Brazil? You know, do guys take failure easily?
I think it's changing quite fast. I think the Latin culture, not only in Brazil, used to see failure as something definitive. If you fail one time, you're going to fail all the times. But today, when I talk with most of entrepreneurs and ask them, I see, no, we are willing to take the risk. We know that we can fail. We have many options to do it again. So I see a big change, okay? Of course, still, if you ask everybody, many people still saying, oh, no, I'm afraid of that. But as I said, you can see by the changes on the profile of entrepreneurs that are there. I have many entrepreneurs that were leaving their jobs, good jobs, with good salaries to go to do entrepreneurship. So I think this is the best demonstration that people are already changing their mind and thinking, okay, I can try to do that. I have some risk on that. If it fails, it's not the end of my life.
Yeah, and as you said, we did not start doing companies this year or last year or this millennium. It comes from way back, and people are making bridges. I mean, senior guys and young guys, but still they expect also returns, and you guys as investors or very close to investors also, are there returns?
Well, we're starting to see some. This is very new in Brazil. If you look at when I was a fund manager of one of the first seed funds in Brazil. It started back in 2007. And still, we're starting to have our first exits right now. So the fund is like 7 years old. And if you look at the oldest funds, specifically for startups in Brazil, are less old than that. So we're starting to see first exits and M&A moves over there. I think it's definitely one of the main challenges that you have in the Brazilian ecosystem. We have to create liquidity for all those angel investors and accelerators that are starting to make the first early investments. But again, I think I see this as good news because our problems as an ecosystem has just moved to the next level. Now we're worried about liquidity and exits. And a few years ago, we're thinking about, are there opportunities? Are there good business? Are there good entrepreneurs? So it really seems that we've evolved as an ecosystem. And I think that as long as we have good projects and good businesses, and you may see some economic movements, some folks would say that this is not just a good year for Brazil. We have elections. We have the economists saying that some things hasn't happened. But when you look in the long term and the macroeconomics and demographics, the population, the penetration of technology, and all the lacks that we have, and you look at as opportunities, there's a lot of room for growth for all kinds of businesses. So I really think that once we start to seed those opportunities, there will be good larger companies, and the money will flow.
Yeah, just one important thing to most people understand also. One of the biggest problems we see, of course, we still have all more options, have exits, but is that people in Brazil are very afraid to publicly tell everybody that when they have done an exit. For example, Google has bought a company in Brazil, a very innovative company because they have a very good mechanism of search engine, but nobody disclosed almost anything. It was just one line, Google bought this company, nobody's told how much was the sale, etc. And this happens a lot. So actually, there are many more deals that are done that we really know. Okay, for example, one other guy, I was talking with an investor, and was telling the investment he has done and have exit of over 1,000% return in 3 years. Okay, I think actually less than 3 years. So it was a very big return, and said, okay, but please don't tell anybody else about that. So the culture, because we still have a little bit of culture that getting lots of money can not be so well recognized, since the country, we still have many poor people. But there are many deals that are done that we don't know about it.
Yeah, but we are friendly about it. We accept that. So Felipe has done some exercise about what might happen if we keep this path. What else do you think might happen? Like in 5 years, Brazil might be what? Or if you want to address like trends, what industries, what type of business?
Well, personally, I'm very biased about e-commerce. So everybody comes to ask me about this. So I can say a little bit more about this. We're going to see more companies developing tools that will help us to sell better, have better ways to sell to the consumer and deliver products. Otherwise, if we see the same growth that we're seeing for the last years, if we don't have a huge change or a huge improvement for all the things that are related to e-commerce, the market won't be able to deliver, and we'll see like maybe in 3 years a huge breakdown in the market, like big companies not being able to deliver, to support, to sell, payments going crazy, because our environment wasn't created to this big volume. So this is where also at the same time lies all the opportunities to create. And I'm also mentioning the e-commerce because of new business models that are being created, not only the traditional B2C, buying and selling. That's one thing that I always like to say, like the curated model, flash sales, subscription, and I think this is one of the ways that we're going to.
Yeah, this is one flavor, so to say. Does anybody have a different view?
Well, if I might,
it's not only e-commerce, right?
That. As I said, like we agree in Brazil having like 30 million people moving into the consumer space. So yes, the consumer-related businesses are favored by this development, but I think Brazil has 3 major areas of development, which is logistics, health, and education. So basically, around combining these 2 sides, you have a consumer who can spend money, and some basic needs of these people to commute. So some people of basic needs of the people to learn and to treat themselves better create like a very, very large opportunity for any new business that helps to people be healthier, get better medical assistance, learn more. So I think for me these 2 are the main ingredients to the success formula of Brazilian entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and Samuel, in addition to that, because I have some data about the companies from Startup Brazil. So retail, education, finance, and health are the sectors where most businesses are in. So.
Yeah, we could spend the afternoon thinking about this, and actually I would invite you guys to keep reading Startupi, which is with an I at the end, .com.br, and well, talk later. We have to finish. Thank you. Thank you guys too.